Okay, good afternoon everyone. Hello and welcome to SimCast, the Higher Education Simulation Podcast. My name's Tony Jermy, I'm an Associate Professor from UEA Norwich.
Hi everybody, lovely to see you all. My name's Lawrence Hill and I am also an Associate Professor at the University of East Anglia in Norwich. Before we start, we just want to say a couple of thank yous, don't we?
Yep.
So huge thank you to Elevate Healthcare for organising this conference. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to participate and to observe so many good presentations today already.
This is the second time we're here. We came last time in 2023 and we must be doing something right because we've been invited back.
Or maybe they just couldn't get anybody else. But
well,
I don't think that's the case. But it genuinely, we're taking a bit of a risk today. 2 years ago, we talked about how we run a podcast and did this kind of nested podcast within a podcast.
And quite a lot of planning that went into it.
There's a lot of planning went into that. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. And we're taking a bit of a risk, as you can see. And we are debriefing the delegation. So just to manage expectations, this is a debrief, and no debrief is a debrief without everyone.
Active participation.
So we've got a couple of roving mics. Tom's got a roving mic, Matt's got a roving mic, and we're going to hopefully lean in to what you've had today.
Okay. Just a bit of background and context for people who've not seen or heard the podcast before. We've been doing it for about 65 episodes now.
Yeah, just over 2 years.
And when we were invited 2 years ago, we'd literally just started, so we were probably just in double digits, if that. We release the podcast every 2 weeks, and as you can see, we do a range of different topics. We've had a couple of people from the delegation on previous episodes, so we've got Dan Blood, who's taken some photos of our lovely keynote slide.
Kate Ewing,
Kate,
we've seen you. There she is. Hello, Kate. Good to see you.
And we've also had Elevate's own Jamie and Wendy, who's not here today.
No, because she's sunning herself somewhere.
Talking about the commercial side of simulation. So the premise is we do a podcast on higher education-based simulation, but in reality, we cover all sorts of different topics around simulation.
And we set this podcast up really because we were trying to create a simulation movement within our School of Health Sciences at UEA Norwich. Simulation was a relatively new pedagogical tool to lots of people who were in our school, and we started off just creating like video summaries of our simulation interest group meetings, and that evolved into the podcast that it is today. So this is a shameless plug for our podcast. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check that notification bell. Did I do that right?
Pretty much. Yeah. I normally do that bit, which is kind of nice of you to do it.
Yeah.
So the podcast is available on YouTube through our School of Health Sciences YouTube channel, and it's also available on popular streaming platforms, so Spotify, Apple Music, things like that.
Yeah, so today is a debriefing the delegation, but also we've had some amazing conversations today with Sharon, Helen. I've had a fantastic conversation with Helen, Aaron from Sim EPR, and Joelle, if she's still here. And actually, if you've got something that you want to share with this wide community of simulation practitioners on the podcast, please just come and speak to one of us. We'd love to get you on and talk about what you want to talk about in terms of sim. So
the premise of today's plenary session is basically when you go to a conference like this, and I'm sure some of you will experience this a little bit today, is you've got this huge array of different breakout rooms and sessions you can go to, and I'm sure if you wanted to pick and choose, you'd probably go to multiple ones that were happening simultaneously, and so you always probably leave thinking, there's probably something more I could have got from it. So the point of the plenary session is to share our experiences so that we can share our learning moving forward.
Yeah, we really wanted to squeeze a bit more out of the enormous amount of effort that presenters put into preparing their materials and actually share some of that learning across the delegation, and that's why we've done it in this way.
A quick pan of the delegation as well.
Give us a wave if you like, if not, hide your face.
Wow. Tough crowd,
yeah, really going for it. Yeah, but it's honestly, it's really lovely. So that's the plan, but we wouldn't start any simulation or debrief without asserting the basic assumption, obviously, and we want everyone who's participating in this debrief the assumption that we're making is that you are intelligent, capable, care about what you're doing, and want to improve regardless of how badly we ham this up. So thank you in advance for being confident.
It's going to go one of two ways, isn't it? It's either going to be a really good debrief, or it's going to be tumbleweed.
Yeah.
It's going to be content for us regardless, so we don't mind. And and it's going to be learning in one way or another.
So we better have some learning outcomes as well.
Yep, so every good simulation session has a learning outcome. So this is Lawrence's learning outcome.
That's harsh.
To curate and broadcast the standout ideas, experiments and micro-victories emerging across different conference zones, translating them into digestible stories for those who could not split themselves into 5 identical versions to attend every session.
Yeah, or we could probably do a bit better than that, couldn't we?
So Lawrence is quite wordy and philosophical with his approach to simulation. I tend to shoot from the hip a little bit more. So this is my one. I think this is the one we're going to stick with because a good learning outcome is easy to remember.
Yeah.
Capture and share the best ideas from across the conference in clear, emerging summaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the best and the most stimulating ideas from today's conference came from Sharon Weldon, phenomenal keynote speaker. Absolutely loved that talk. I think it set us off on a real kind of journey of discovery and thought. And we had one question for you, Sharon, if that's okay, which is how do you think we can future-proof simulation without widening inequalities in access? What do you reckon?
I think it's that, can you hear me?
Will?
Now? No? Yes, there we go. I think it is that coming together, ensuring that everyone's voices are heard. We're quite, like I said in the keynote, simulation is very complex and requires so many different perspectives to make it work, to design it, to facilitate it. So there's something about us understanding that, appreciating that, and where everyone's voice needs to be heard and come in. And there's something about alignment across the field, coming together in that alignment of terminology, in understanding. And that's going to take us a bit of time, but I think we're starting to move there collectively as a field and appreciate the complexity of it, actually.
Yeah, and when we were talking just before we started today about the importance of kind of openness and the need to, events like this really remind us that we are a community of educators and a community of practice, but we need to take the spirit and the vibe of what we're getting from today and then take it into our day-to-day practice and continue to share and promote best practice.
Yeah, just like what you're doing here, and I think what we all try to do, that generosity of sharing is really important, so we can kind of come with curiosity towards each other, but then come away stretching our thinking a little bit.
That's something we've learned on the podcast, isn't it? I said to you early on, do you think we'll ever run out of ideas for content? And the more and more people we meet, the more and more we realise there's so much. And you
come to places, and there's 1,000 people here, and you think. I know we just got to go over 180 something.
I think the lights here, right?
Yeah. But there are so many people here, each with individual kind of stories to tell and things that they can contribute wider. And that's what we set out to do. It can be hard getting your name on an article in the scientific literature. Sometimes it can feel really quite challenging, but actually the beauty of the podcast format is that it's much easier to broadcast, and we want to hear about your ideas early, mid, well-developed, already published. Come and talk to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so now we get to the debrief part. So as you probably have realised, when you look at the programme, there was a lot of things going on simultaneously throughout the 3 different hours of sessions that we had. And I tried initially to put each of the sessions down, and that was becoming kind of an endless list. So what we thought we'd do instead is try and look for some reoccurring themes. And this is our idea of themes.
Before we get into the themes, before we get into the analysis of the conference themes, do you think, considering it is a debrief, it would be appropriate just to get some initial reactions from the learner group about your responses and your initial feelings about today as a conference?
So this is something that Lawrence and I like to do in a debrief.
Love to see some hands.
Because people automatically go into analysis mode. I should have known better, really. What we like to do is get people to, in one word, summarise what the simulation activity was. And it gets them to obviously think about it in terms of maybe a thought or emotion or something to evoke some kind of reflection. Now, our simulation activity was all of the sessions that we went to. So can we just, rather than roaming mics go around, can you just shout out some sort of one-word kind of impressions of what today's sessions have been like? Inspiring? I'm going to repeat them just in case we can't hear them on the mics. Informative? Yeah.
Actionable. Love that.
You writing these down?
Yeah.
Impressive?
This is going to be, sorry.
Relatable. Yeah, lovely. Thought-provoking. That's technically... we'll put a hyphen.
Hyphen, you allowed a hyphen?
Also, if anyone's slightly uncomfortable with that silence, who's used to debriefing in the room? Just quick show of hands, who does debriefing regularly? Yeah? You'll know what that silence is like, right? You have to embrace the silence, don't you, to get through it. That's some great
That's some lovely, inspiring, informative, impressive. We're going to be a whole different Seven Eyes at this rate, but actionable, relatable, thought-provoking, amazing. Thank you so much for those initial reactions.
So certainly it feels like the sessions have hit the brief. But let's look at them in a bit more detail. So this is our understanding of looking at all the sessions together and trying to put them into sort of some themes. So we've looked at debriefing dynamics and human factors. There's a whole load of sessions on healthcare education and workforce development. A lot today, not only in the presentations, but and also the kit and equipment that's around technology and technique, because we're firm believers that simulation is a technique, not a technology.
Yeah, inclusivity, representation and simulation equity. And then we kind of lent into that conversation right at the beginning of this debrief with the question that we asked Sharon.
And having a quick look around the delegation, I can clearly see who's just been in the last Moulage workshop.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot around creativity, playfulness and engaging learner experience. We can see some really interesting wounds.
And so we've aligned the conference talks to these themes, and what we've also done is, because we could only get to a small number, as all of you have been able to get to a small number, we've just put a little pop-up face of us, or the ones that we went to, but we're going to be relying on your experiences of going to the talks that we couldn't attend to share some of that learning with the rest of the group, if that's okay.
Okay, let's look at the first theme. So the first theme is debriefing dynamics and human factors. Now I, as you can see by my mugshot, was able to attend the fantastic session on navigating the storm and a multitude of other nautical themes by the fabulous team at Maudsley Learning. Where's Maudsley Learning? There we are, over there.
Lovely to see you again.
Are you all nautical themed out? Pretty much, okay. And there's also a session by C. Maguire. We don't have the first names for some of these sessions. I'm going to make the first names up.
Who is it?
Claire. I think I'm going to make some of the first names up, I think, just to be a little more interesting.
Radical, go for it.
But multimodality, human factors and simulation. So, question we're going to provide to the delegation on this theme. Where is the line between creating safety and creating stretch in a debrief? And how do we avoid slipping into teaching mode? Firstly, quick show of hands who attended one of these sessions.
Well volunteered.
I know there's more than 2 people who went to the Maudsley Learning one. Come on, put them up nice and proud. You are demonstrating exactly what your learners are like, by the way.
So what do you think then? Over to you. What do you think is the answer to that question?
So for those of you who didn't go to the debriefing session, it's all around how to deal with some of the challenging complexities when debriefing perhaps doesn't go as smoothly as what you want to as a facilitator. Sometimes because we're dealing with challenging topics.
I'm just going to slowly swing this over to the Maudsley crew. What do you think, guys?
No pressure, but I'm standing here with a microphone. So, do you want to jump on?
Firstly, how did you think the session went?
Well, I'm stepping in not as the person presenting it, but I thought it was a really engaging session, and I thought everybody in the room was great at kind of coming together and bringing their thoughts together, and we were really grateful for everybody contributing.
And if you had one thing that you hoped that the delegates would take away from your session, what do you think that would be?
I share the sentiments with Kirsten here as well. I'm really glad that people were really engaged and everybody was just sharing their ideas, picking each other's brains. And I hope that the key takeaway would be to be more confident and to be able to relate to each other more as well. Like these challenging debriefs can come across at any time. And
tell me about it.
we had to do some scenarios, and the scenario that
Thank
we
you
had.
so much. Thank you.
We had in the scenario that I was involved with, there was basically two people arguing with each other in a debrief about a spicy topic, and I went straight to an experience that we both had when we had to debrief some newly qualified paramedics who the boxing gloves were nearly on. But what I gained from that was everyone in the session had that. There was very much some sort of shared experiences and a shared approach to how you deal with actually what is a really complex issue, which is debriefing is hard enough as it is when it goes well, but when it is challenging, it's even harder.
Yeah, absolutely. So did we say it was Claire Maguire? Yeah. Is Claire here? No, she's absolutely. Oh, okay. Well, Claire, I hope you've had a safe journey home. Did anyone go to that session then?
We went to the human factor
multimodality human factor simulation session. What was the takeaway message from that, do you think?
Miraculously, everyone has left who went to these two sessions.
So how do you manage this in a challenging debrief? What's the drill?
I don't know, you need people to debrief in the first place, don't you? Okay, so the question that we've got here is, does human factors education work best when we frame them as discrete competencies within the sim, or should it be a worldview that permeates in everything that we do? What do we think? Okay, do you want to, so if we can just put your hands up to the mics and go over.
All right. I had one job. I still didn't see her.
I didn't actually go to the session, but I think human factors, humanity needs to be in simulation, doesn't it? And therefore the impact of people and people's decision making and the team working, it's innate in everything we actually do, isn't it? Really, I don't think you can separate it.
What can we do as educators then to ensure that that happens, do we think? I know what I think. But it's been a long day, isn't it?
When does an uncomfortable silence become an intolerably uncomfortable silence?
Are you uncomfortable?
Not really, but I can sense discomfort.
Well, I'll tell you what I do.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm designing a simulation and I'm looking for learning outcomes, firstly I like to have 3 learning outcomes. 3 is quite nice, isn't it? Something easy to remember. And I always try and have a technical learning outcome, a non-technical learning outcome, which is often going to be something human factors related, and then some other learning outcome that might be specific to something that we're trying to achieve. So,
but it's interesting though, isn't it? The question of how you can integrate something to make it holistic rather than have it taught as discrete competencies. Because if we take advanced life support as an example, you wouldn't ask somebody to become an advanced life support provider by putting them into repeated complex simulations. You would teach them in part task, right? So I wonder whether there's maybe a bit of room for both, that actually you could do some part task training and raising awareness around human factors ergonomics in order to do that effectively. Yep. Just a thought.
Okay.
What about theme 2?
Let's move on to theme 2. So we both went to one of these. So we think that we've captured the talks, and obviously we've only been to a couple ourselves, that look at healthcare education workforce development. I went to Pete Gorman's. Pete Gorman gets a shout out for the best acronym of the day. Yeah. EPAC-Man. Is Pete here?
Pete.
He's cleared off as well. Okay. And you went to
Yes, I did, and it was a fantastic talk. I very much enjoyed this conversation about evaluation of organisational readiness. I'm going to pick on you a little bit, if that's okay, because it was such a great talk. Helen, isn't it? So you talked about using a tool to assess organisational readiness for implementing simulation. It's a fascinating talk, and it was all done in the format of talking about Bake Off, and there were cakes. So if you didn't go, unlucky, because it was delicious and informative. But perhaps, would you mind just sharing a little tiny bit about what you hoped people would take away from your talk?
Good evening, everybody. So what we wanted to achieve from our workshop today was to kind of really understand the importance of organisational readiness, and embedding, not only just like embedding simulation-based learning, but making it sustainable to a whole workforce across a wide organisation. To understand that actually this way of learning is a new culture, and how we actually embed that culture across all of our education and training. So, and we wanted to be able to share our experience on how we've gone through a variety of stages to use the scores tool to work out where we are, what we need to do to further improve, and just sort of share that experience with others so that they can understand organisational readiness and just embed that culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and who else here has had a hand to play in implementing a simulation portfolio or strategy in a simulation naive organisation? I'm sure, you know, some of those messages that Helen's talking about would resonate strongly. So it's just worth, you know, saying that you actually introduced me to the scores, the Simulation Centre Organisational Readiness Survey. So that was a really interesting and, you know, opportunity for some empirical work looking at before and after implementation. So fascinating talk, and thank you. And thank you to Anne as well for that really interesting talk.
So as you can see, there's a lot of other sessions that we weren't able to go to in this theme. So I was just wondering if anyone who went to the others had anything sort of profound that came from the session that they went to. If not, we'll move on to a question that we prepared for this theme. Yep, great. Thank you. There's two people, Dan and the lady at the front here was first. Can't remember to move there.
Yeah.
So I went to Nick Guthrie's Managing the Ward, Developing Confidence in Student Nurses. I think it demonstrated that you don't need technology. You just need to be able to rely on what they've learnt before and how we can, through injects and things like that, how people react to different situations, because it was all like a game. So you had patients and you had to put the patients into different bed spaces.
Okay, like a tabletop exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really, really clever, but very simple, very cheap.
And effective at achieving learning outcomes, presumably.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Food for thought, right?
And then I think we had Dan, friend of the podcast, Dan Blood.
Hello. My comments also on Nick Guthrie's session. I'm not clinically trained in any way, shape or form, but it was really easy and engaging to get involved with. It's also given us loads of ideas to take home. So thank you and well done for such a really well-run session.
Phenomenal.
Excellent. Well
Brilliant.
done.
Thanks very much.
Anyone else? Fantastic. Great. Thank you. We're starting to warm up now. I like it. We're getting there.
Okay. So I wanted to mention a session that's really, to me, the most important one in these conferences. It's the hallway conversations. And so I had a conversation with Maurice, and the conversation with Sharon. And those were very, very stimulating. What I learned from Maurice is that there's a whole new generation of leadership in the company, young, very motivated people coming from different perspectives, getting into this. So that's to the veteran I am. That's very encouraging. And Sharon and I have been having conversations on the need for the philosophy of science around medical simulation, so very broad thinking. So I keep the hallway conversations are as important to me as the sessions. The sessions are excellent, but don't forget the hallway conversations.
Really insightful, really insightful. And I've been as guilty as most people, I think, as just walking past people and not having those conversations. And actually, in a community like this, it's really important that we do, isn't it? Like you say, because there's so many things we could potentially talk about. Great. Anyone else? Yeah. Thank you.
Also went to Lindsay McLeish, an old colleague of mine. She was talking about innovating placement capacity, hybrid simulated practice learning placement, or SBLP, with Sim EPR integration. we do SPL at our university, and it was really interesting to see how other universities do it. I truly believe that cross-pollination to kind of get the best that we can out of our students, so that can improve patient outcome. And what they do different to what we do is they do face-to-face, whereas we don't. And the benefits that they do, I think, far outweigh anything that you can do online. You can get immediate feedback, you can improve on students' abilities to do technical things, or kind of just say, this is how we do it in real life. So I thought it was a really important kind of thing to see, and how we can improve our own capacities at our university as well.
Fabulous, thank you so much. And that is what it's all about, isn't it? It's that sharing of ideas. Like you said, the cross-fertilisation is so important. What about the next theme, Tony?
Yep, okay, moving on to theme 3. So theme 3, we just heard that you can do it all without technology, but when you do want to use technology and digital simulation platforms, so again, some really interesting talks. Lawrence, you went to one of these.
Yes, I went to Willem's talk and others as well about natural intelligence. And I didn't really know what to expect from this talk, but actually what we got was a phenomenal tour de force of the scientific endeavour that goes into building models which inform realistic patient simulators, and just phenomenal hearing about how hard kind of bioscience, essentially exploring normal parameters, can be used to program models which respond in realistic ways, so that when you adjust physiology, realistic things happen on patient monitors. And it was a bit of a watershed for me, because I, as I said to Willem, I had just always assumed that all of the parameters that I adjusted on the simulation was informed by some kind of realistic science, and perhaps it isn't. So the work that's happening is, it's phenomenal, and it was a really interesting talk to see.
Did anyone go to any of the other sessions? I'm hoping they did, and if so, what's been sort of the key learning from those sessions?
Yes, at the
back. Thank you.
Thank you. So I went to the one around in enhancing anatomical understanding and peer collaboration through the anatomage tables. So that's done by some colleagues of myself at Birmingham City University, where they're actually using the anatomage table to actually allow students to learn how to look at anatomy and physiology in a little bit more detail, but with more interactive and playful type activities. They're looking to develop that more into being more student-led and peer learning, and just developing that in terms of undergraduate nursing, but looking to develop it across all of the AHPs and other healthcare courses as well. So that was really insightful. I mean, I hadn't seen how they'd worked that before, so it was really insightful to see how that was actually coming along.
I think that answers the pre-prepared question that we had, which was, when does technology widen participation, and when does it just make everything a little bit more shinier? And I think we can be guilty, again, in simulation, of just trying to throw technology at things, and expecting the result. And again, I think the application has to be meaningful to help with learning. Anyone else? Any other sessions? Everyone's looking at each other to throw each other under the bus.
Let's go to theme 4.
Let's naturally progress. Okay. So theme 4, inclusivity, representation, and simulation equity. So Lawrence, you went to another one of these sessions?
Yeah, I did. And this was a really interesting question around raising students' confidence as community nurses. And we had a really sparky conversation in the room afterwards about that exact thing, and about whether or not community nursing is for me, the conversation felt like, is community nursing a discipline of nursing in its own right? Like actually to be kind of added to, the conventional 4 fields of nursing. But I wondered if anyone else present in the room, and there wasn't that many of us, might want to kind of contribute to that discussion here for the benefit of the rest of the delegation. Yeah, there you go. What did you think, Anne?
I really enjoyed the presentation. I think for me, working in a community trust, I feel that there's a lot of work being done in acute trusts, and there's lots of different things that can be replicated there, but it was really refreshing to talk to somebody else who works in a community trust and just think about the different ways that we access simulation and the different ways that we need to use it. It's quite a unique setting, really, and the human factors element and the ideas of people just literally walking into people's homes potentially, and all the feelings that evokes. Just massive, brilliant conversation today, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was fascinating. Thank you for contributing to the discussion. Anyone else go to any of these other fantastic talks? Oh, yes, look, Sharon.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember your first name, but the top one on the left in the eye of the storm. Is she here? Maybe she's gone home. I thought that was really fabulous because she basically talked about how something had gone, there'd been several never events, and she was asked in the hospital to use simulation to address them. But the way the kind of leadership were coming at it, it was kind of like a very, the staff have done something wrong, they need to know approach. And I love the way she talked about the way that she was able to stop that and use really principles of simulation that I think we've learned through trial and error over the years about not using it against people, not recognise it as a safe space and somewhere that we can all come together and understand and learn. And it wasn't the main thing about the presentation, but what came through was that idea that she wasn't going to use it in that way. She wanted to use it for everyone to learn together, to not point someone out who'd done something wrong. And it was really quite inspiring, the change that she managed. And again, from a human factors perspective, the way that when she started watching what was going on, it was all system failures, nothing to do with the individuals at all. There was stuff that they had no control over, and she was able to see that. So
that's such an interesting thought as well, that I think as a community of practice, what we have to do is to intentionally resist simulation being used as a tool to retrain individuals. Reflective practice is gets a bit of a bad rap as kind of being weaponized as being a way of making people feel sorry and repent for the errors that they make in practice. And I think simulation is at risk if we're not mindful as a community of practice of it not going down the same path. So thanks for sharing that, Sharon.
That leans
really
into your interest in transformational simulation as well, right?
Sorry?
It leans into your interest in transformational simulation.
It was. And I mean, it was used, she did it slightly differently in that she observed what was going on, then designed a simulation for education, but you could have used the simulation to perhaps walk through what was going on with everyone in the same kind of way as the observations that she did over time to figure that one out.
Use it as like a diagnostic tool.
No, it was fascinating.
Great, thank you.
Great.
I'm going to put quite a blunt question out there to the delegates. Where do we think we are currently with inclusivity and representation in SIM? If we're honest. Hand up at the back.
Hi, so I'm Stephanie Reynolds. I did the community nurse one, and so I think as you were there. I'm not sure. I stated quite clearly. I think that simulation tends to be about wards and mannequins, and not so much about the human factors and the standardised patients. So that's my personal opinion. But
Okay, thank you.
So thinking about inclusivity from the lens of the different disciplines within professions, I think is that the point you're making, Steph?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to Pete Gorman's session, which we covered in an earlier theme, and there was a little bit of discussion around representation in simulation, and when we asked for certain demographics from patient groups, that we struggle to get that representation, and that's a real challenge and problem. And I think the companies are trying to move forwards in terms of representation, within perhaps some still technical limitations of what can be achieved. Really interesting to hear about the modular simulator that you've got and you've developed, and how that's working proactively to look at inclusive simulation as well. So I think there's still a little bit of a journey to go.
No, absolutely. But it's important, and you know, thanks to the conference organisers for ensuring that kind of theme is present in the conference topics.
We've got
Was there another hand over there?
Yeah.
Oh, superb. Yeah, tell us.
Just kind of following on from what the lady said in the corner, I think from those of people in the room for our talk, MPFT, geographically huge. But we're very unique in the fact we do mental health, physical health, learning disabilities, children's and adult social services. And so for us trying to capture that inclusivity and make sure that we're covering all of those services and those needs is a really big challenge for us. And we're trying really hard to get the workforce buy-in, but the message that we hear from our colleagues out there is that, you know, simulation is for physical health. And we're really, really trying to hammer down on that and make sure that all of our scenarios are more inclusive. But it is a huge, huge obstacle that needs to be overcome.
Sure. And you know, we haven't... oh, there's more. Yes, go ahead, out the back.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that as well, because I wanted to just sort of raise the awareness of like people with learning disabilities, cognitive impairments, particularly when we're looking at simulation. I think it's really easy to miss certain groups of patients that perhaps need that additional need. You know, when we actually talk about using mannequins, we can obviously adapt them to be a particular age range and a particular health condition. But just sort of that emphasis on the need to how we incorporate that if someone isn't able to perhaps understand or communicate well, and actually recognising the needs of those different diverse populations, I think is really, really important. But I think we also need to be aware of other identities as well within those population of healthcare patients that we might come across as well. I'm a learning disability nurse, so I have a lone voice in a big field usually, so I have to try and speak loud, which is why you'll probably hear my voice quite a bit over the next couple of days.
Thank you so much.
Loud and proud.
And we've talked a lot there, haven't we, about kind of professional identity, but we've not touched on cultural differences, on ethnic differences, on religious differences. And I think, you know, these are really important things. When, you know, in Sharon's keynote at the beginning, she talked about, you know, essentially curating the educational experience. And we choose, right, as educators. So if we're unsatisfied with the representation...
I don't think we even need to choose. I think it's a responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a moral obligation to ensure
to move away from the physical simulation of the past, particularly in clinical environments, to encompassing simulation to look at everything within health and social care, right? That's got to be what we've got to aim to achieve.
We've got another comment or thought over here.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking a little bit about what was being said, and we're Maudsley Learning, we're part of South London and Maudsley NHS Foundation Trust, so we're a mental health trust and we're a mental health simulation team. And I guess there's not many of us around, is the first thing. And I echo what people are hearing or what they're sort of noticing in terms of it mostly being in acute settings and thinking a lot about physical health. But my argument is, I guess, we're dealing with the whole person. If we're thinking about kind of the overlap between physical health and mental health, you know, you can't unlink those things. So you are going to have to think about what the impact is of someone who's maybe recently, had a heart attack potentially, has gone back home, and actually they can't climb the stairs like they used to. They can't go out and leave their house in the same way they used to. They get out of breath. What impact is that going to have on their mood, and then what impact is that going to have on their recovery? So I guess we're a little bit lucky in one way that we get to be a little bit indulgent about thinking about human factors and spending that extra time considering that, because you can't consider mental health without considering exactly those things. It's the extra parts that make you a little bit human. I guess in thinking about inclusivity and representation, I think it's really tricky when there might be lots of evidence about something, but not enough research into how to adapt or what to do to challenge that. And then that becomes tricky. Like, what do you do in the simulations? Do you replicate what's happening out there? Do you take it as an opportunity to start a conversation about change? And then where does it go from there when you don't have an evidence base to link it then back into? Or if we're thinking about other parts where we're designing kind of AI, if we know that there has not been research into thinking about women, the changes, over a period of a month in terms of hormones and what that does, then are we just programming more things without that information? lots of thoughts today, I have to
Amazing.
It's interesting, isn't it? And
isn't that the whole idea? And it's Elaine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so many thoughts and so much complexity for us all to wrestle with and consider as designers of simulation. We probably better.
I've heard the term safety mentioned a lot today, and I think it's a really nice way to sort of identify that simulation isn't always safe, because we don't have all the answers, and actually inadvertently we could make it very unsafe, couldn't we? Fascinating, thank you.
Fifth and final theme then, and this was creativity, playfulness and engaging learner experience.
Anyone who's got a moulage wound on cannot say that they haven't taken place in one of these sessions. There we are, we've got some fantastic wounds over there.
Yeah, we've got a shoulder injury over here.
So who went to one of these sessions? I went to... You
can't hide. You lot actually can't hide at all, because we can see you.
I went to the session run by M. Johnson, Magic Johnson, I think. Is it Mike? Is he here? It's Magic then, it's Magic. Who talked about the impact of advanced moulage techniques on medical student learning and the difference between using imagery and basically what he'd begged, borrowed and stealed in terms of offcuts of old simulation limbs and things, and then putting moulage on it and having a much better understanding by the student group in terms of what that simulation of moulage looked at. Some interesting discussion that came from the end of that session as well, in terms of practicalities, from everything from how expensive is it, how long does it take, it's a nice idea, but how do I put it in practically? And I think maybe some of the people in the delegation can answer how long it takes, because we've had some wounds done in the workshop. So who else attended the other sessions? Who went to the masterclass in silicon for moulage? Basically, who's got a wound on? So there's a hand up at the back there, the lady with the beanie on. Can I ask you to just give your insights about the session? Firstly, why did you go to the session in the first place? And then...
what are you going to do with the knowledge that you've now got?
How long are you going to keep that wound off for?
Yeah, so mine's only just dried, so it takes a while for the silicone to set. But yeah, I just took the opportunity to ask as many questions as I possibly could, so that was really good.
Do you currently use moulage?
Yeah, I'm kind of the moulage person at our university, so yeah, I was armed with lots of questions to ask of it, just technical things, so that was good to have the chance to discuss technique.
Great stuff.
Love that, thank you.
Over here.
I think, as well as the value of all the tips and tricks we get from somebody with such experience as Lindsay Foxcroft, I've always felt we pay such a high price for medical simulation equipment, because we're almost scared to try and do it ourselves, but over the recent years we seem to be trusted more and more and handed the skills and handed the materials by the industry, because we're being trusted to do this ourselves, which it helps us concentrate our available funds from budgets to more impressive purchases like mannequins, because we don't have to waste it on we don't have to buy everything. If we can make things more than we can make ourselves, the more we can invest in the shiny and the almost impossible to make ourselves. So.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Thank you, Dan. Okay, great. Well, look, Tony, I think we probably better start thinking about transitioning this debrief
people are ready for
into growth.
The evening.
Yeah, we're all ready for a bit of karaoke from Matt. But before we do that, I think,
we like to transition from analysis into growth, don't we, with the debrief. So what Lawrence and I normally do is we go around our debrief delegates and we ask for an area of learning. So we're going to go around each delegate now and just ask. I'm joking. Can we have maybe 3 to 5 kind of insights? What's been your big learning from today?
What are you taking away?
And how are you going to take away maybe into day 2 or to shape your practice moving forwards? Over at the back.
Hi, Paul from Frimley. I attended the escape room gamification one, and I found it really interesting because what I'm going to take away is we've spent over a decade with our foundation doctors putting them through scenarios. And what she was saying in that was that our foundation doctors now are millennials, they like cooperation, they like teamwork. So actually putting them through individual scenarios is actually really, really anxiety-inducing for them. So I'm going to go back and look at, well, maybe we should look at this gamification idea. Maybe actually they should be doing escape rooms more than doing individual scenarios now.
Great, thank
Amazing.
you. Really interesting insight.
Great takeaway. Thanks. Let's have two more if we can. What 2 more takeaways from today's conference?
At the back, thank you very much. Just wants to get out of here.
Hi, so Ethan from University of Birmingham. My biggest takeaway was quite a lot of the sessions that I saw today were based on how there's sort of limitations in students learning about community practice, and I think that is something to definitely consider when it comes to sort of us as a university trying to, I guess, promote that. I mean, I am an apprentice technician, so I don't really have much say in terms of, you know, big things that go on in the university, but I do think it is an important takeaway and something definitely to consider.
Thank you, Ethan. Love
well,
that.
Well, I'd certainly urge your university to listen to the technical team a lot
100%.
more. You've got a big voice.
Yeah. And one more. Who else is taking something away from today? There he is.
There we go.
Bravery.
There's always one. Yeah.
I'm being forced into this, so it might not be eloquent, it might not be useful, but I think it's been a real opportunity to kind of reflect on lots of areas of our own learning as well. I think we're kind of forward facing, aren't we? We're focusing on the future and what we can do and what we can achieve, but actually seeing people's journeys, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to stop and look back over your shoulder and say, look, this is what we've done, this is what we've achieved. As part of a team that started the journey into simulation before I joined, then being able to hear, you know, the kind of things that we've managed to do over this 5, 6, 7 year period, it's really, you know, made me proud to be part of everything that everyone is here today.
Thank you.
Here. Well said. And if ever a statement is there to reflect the ethos of an entire conference, that was it in my mind. Thank you so much for that.
Lawrence, what's been your key learning? You weren't expecting that. I've just put him on the spot.
I think, as ever, it's about the complexity of what we're doing, but I think the conversations that we've had across the day, I think it's what it's done in my mind on reflection is it's reinforced the great work that's happening in a lot of different areas, and that we are, and we were talking about this with Sharon earlier, that there's a huge amount of energy and commitment that's being driven in lots of different discrete, unique and interesting directions, and that actually probably as a community what we have to do is to try and consolidate some of that into frameworks and systems and ways of thinking about how we do simulation in a way that allows sort of more growth and containment, I suppose, in a way, of some of the amazing things that are happening. Not to constrain them at all, but to define them and to create taxonomies of simulation, ways of doing work through simulation that enhance learner outcomes, enhance patient safety, enhance operational effectiveness. So I think for me, it's reinforced that in my mind. What about you?
I can see firstly that you're well into your director role and you're thinking very high and strategy wise now, which is really nice for me because you would have thought a little bit more pragmatically beforehand. I'm much more pragmatic. I went to the Maudsley session, which looked at sort of advanced techniques to deal with difficult conversations. And Lawrence and I have developed a debrief model that we use within our university, which has been designed specifically because we had quite a simulation naive faculty, very clinically experienced, but quite new to simulation. So we've developed a nice, easy debrief model to use. Grab and go, but I'm thinking about how I need to now expand on that to deal with maybe another model which looks at dealing with difficult conversations and the more challenging, pithy part of debriefing, particularly as we navigate through that. So that's been my key takeaway message.
And just to reflect back, the things that you said at the beginning, actually, what are we taking away? This conference is inspiring, informative, actionable relatable, impressive and thought-provoking. And thank you to you all for making it what it is, and to the team at Elevate for inviting us here.
Thank you for everyone who took part in the debrief and made it slightly less painful than what it was going to be originally. We hope you've all learned a little bit more than what the talks that you got to go to today. We hope it's useful, and we really hope that you enjoy your evening, and that you also enjoy day 2 if you're here tomorrow. But thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Good night.